without further introductions, Hossam, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Muthu. It's great to have a chance to participate in this this meetup. It's with the stay-at-home situation. It's always great to at least connect over video with folks from all across the world. So let me start by introducing myself, and then before diving into my talk. So my name is Hossam Bahlool. I joined the Mapbox team about a year ago, leading what we call navigation and driver experiences. It's a broad term which encompasses all aspects of providing location services to various companies, whether those are automotive or logistics, consumer. So I'll talk more about the overall offering for Mapbox for those of you that are not familiar. In terms of myself, I've been in the location space for a very long time, longer than I care to admit at this point. My background's a mix of mobile as well as automotive. Before joining Mapbox, I've had the fun time of driving some really cool projects in automotive with some of the top OEMs globally, but then also working with some of the newer on-demand and traditional delivery services. So what I'm going to be focusing on is last mile delivery in this COVID era. And I mean, this is not necessarily, last mile delivery has been around for a long time. E-commerce itself has been on the rapid rise over the last 5 years. The sales have essentially doubled over the last 5 years. And this COVID situation that we're in right now, I think is driving certain behaviors that are accentuated in the short term, but I think we will see them continue to exist beyond this COVID situation. So the massive impact on how goods are delivered, how workers are hired and retained, how companies scale to be able to meet this demand. And then all of us on this call that provide services, whether that's data or services or solutions into the space, will play a huge role in being able to deliver amazing customer experiences and then help, whether it's retailers or delivery companies, whoever it may be able to cope with scaling up their demand and really deliver on that great customer experience. So just a quick overview about Mapbox itself for those of you that aren't familiar. So Mapbox offers a comprehensive location platform that delivers all parts of the stack that a company would require to build out a variety of location experiences. So starting from the left, we have data that we provide. So we conflate various sources of data, whether that relates to map data, POIs, traffic, any kind of data that you would need to be able to build an amazing location experience. So that's a combination of our own content in addition to third-party content that we conflate and then make available through our platform. In terms of the platform itself, from a services perspective, we focus on a few key areas. One is how the company started off, which is providing maps into a variety of different use cases, which I'll talk about in the next slide. The next one is around search. So for a lot of these location-based experience, it generally starts with a search experience, whether that's searching for a POI or searching for an address or being able to get the geocode so you know where to navigate to. That's all part of the search services that we offer. And then there's the navigation umbrella, which, as I mentioned, encompasses a few key areas. One is focused on navigation services for what you would traditionally think of when you think of nav, so turn-by-turn navigation, so routing and guidance, but also encompasses various other set of APIs like matrix APIs, isochrone APIs, to be able to help with optimization, vehicle routing problem type APIs, to help with the variety of different use cases in the logistics space. And then to make sure that our developers have a great way to be able to build these experiences, we have a wide variety of SDKs that we offer for the various mobile and web platforms. So those are the Maps SDK, the Search SDK, Navigation SDK, and Vision SDK to bring AR-based experience or computer vision-based experiences to our drivers and our users. So that's at a high level the Mapbox platform. The kind of use cases that we enable and the various industries, as I mentioned, logistics, automotive, consumer, enterprise, use cases ranging from visualizations to navigation to search, to optimization. And then just thinking about some of the key interesting use cases for logistics, Whether it's a fleet driver that requires turn-by-turn navigation to get to the grocery store or the restaurant that they're going to pick up an order from, or being able to visualize assets on a map and keep track of where drivers are, or delivery progress, or search for the sake of finding that point of interest. These are the different types of experiences that we've enabled for a variety of customers, the ones that you see here, but then also some major players in the industry like Instacart and so on. So it's pretty exciting for us to be able to work with such a wide variety of use cases, because it helps us evolve our platform in amazing ways and make that available to our customers. So I'd encourage folks to visit mapbox.com. There's a list of these case studies and that showcase the various types of use cases that we deliver on. So in terms of the where I wanted to focus, it's really about what is COVID doing right now and driving in terms of issues that that retailers and delivery companies, whether they're on demand or the more traditional delivery companies, and what are the kind of challenges they're facing, and how are ways that Mapbox has been helping them address those challenges. So first of all, like I mentioned, these aren't necessarily net new opportunities or problems that we're facing. E-commerce sales have doubled in the last 5 years, and then what COVID has been driving is a mix of up and down when it comes to parts of the business. So there are parts of logistics industry that are hurting, especially if they're non-essential services. So a lot of the long haul, for example, related to non-essential services, or so things like appliances or furniture, where people are holding back on in terms of spending. Those parts of the business are suffering. Obviously, with the restrictions of movement that have happened in a lot of countries, ride sharing and urban micro mobility like scooter rentals took a very steep hit. But then there are other parts that, because of again the impact of COVID, have really seen a huge jump, right? So companies, Alex mentioned in the beginning, companies like Instacart, where they reported a 500% jump in order volume, just because of people, number one, want to stay safe and stay at home and get their orders delivered. But also, what's interesting is just talking, anecdotally, you talk to people and they're starting to see the convenience that a lot of these services offer. So you're at your convenience of your home. With a few clicks, you get your favorite groceries or snacks delivered to you, or your favorite clothes, or whatever it may be. So whether it's Instacart reporting this 500% jump, Delivery Hero seeing this 2 times year-over-year growth, Shopify, they reported a 47% revenue growth in Q1. There are parts of this business that are growing substantially. So the question is, with all these additional deliveries, how do these companies scale their operations and hit their metrics, which I'll talk about in the next slide. The other aspect also is just to cope with the sheer demand that's happening for deliveries. Companies are growing substantially in terms of the number of drivers. So you look at companies like Amazon, Walmart, CVS, major retailers in North America and globally. Amazon, for example, is reporting 75,000 hires across warehouse as well as delivery drivers to be able to cope with this demand. Walmart mentioned hiring 50,000 people. CVS, another 50,000 as well. So with all these new drivers that are coming in, how do you make sure the drivers are safe? Obviously, they're provided navigation, but then also because of the significant impact of costs when it comes to insurance and speeding tickets and vehicle wear and tear, how do you make sure that these fleet companies are able to manage costs? So that's another area I'll dig into. And then the third one I'll dig into is just again, not a new phenomenon, but the concept of curbside pickup or buy online and pick up in store has seen this resurgence because of, number one, the convenience, but number two, the lack of desire for people to go into stores because of either lineups or just health concerns that they may have. So the question is, in this world where there's this sudden surge of curbside pickups, how do you deliver a curbside pickup that is on par with the brand experience that you generally think of in the store, and really makes customers happy when they leave and drive off with the products that they ordered? So those are the 3 areas that I'll focus on. So the first of them, if we dive into it, is the more deliveries piece. So every company, a lot of the companies that we speak to, they all have their own concept of the metrics that they use to measure their business when it comes to their delivery operations. That could be, what is the cost per delivery or per stop? how many deliveries they're doing per day, are those deliveries on time and hitting their delivery windows, what's the total drive time or distance of their drivers. Companies in the on-demand space, for example, for driver pickups, they focus on idle time for drivers to make sure that the drivers are constantly being utilized. So regardless of what kind of metric you're looking at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're able to measure that, but also have a positive impact on each of those metrics. And it's interesting, I was reading an article recently, it was published last year around UPS. And UPS, there's a famous story of how they eliminated left turns, and what that did was it allowed them to move 350,000 more packages a year because of just the efficiency that they gained from reducing left turns. And they spoke about also their CIO and head of engineering spoke about this $50 million a year savings if each driver could reduce their route by a single mile. So these are massive impacts that companies can have as they think of how do they scale their operations in this era of online delivery and last mile distribution. So in order to do that, there's a couple of to deliver on that, there's a couple of key components and solutions that companies talk to us about. Number one is a very solid understanding of what's happening out there from the ground truth. And this became especially relevant in the world of COVID, where traffic patterns shifted because for various reasons. There were possibly road closures as well. All this has an impact on how do you make sure that the driver knows where to get to in the fastest way. So that's that foundation piece, which is going back to the platform that Mapbox offers. This is really where we've built up a significant amount of investments because of just the hundreds of millions of monthly active users that we have and the anonymous probe data that we get. We're able to build out a very solid reflection of that ground truth. The other aspect, which again forms the foundation of a lot of these companies, is how do you solve the vehicle routing problem to distribute all these deliveries across your the drivers, and how do you sequence things? And like I mentioned, this can have a tremendous impact on hitting certain metrics, whether that's making sure that the total drive time and drive distance is reduced to save on gas and fuel and vehicle wear and tear, or it's to make sure that you actually hit your delivery windows SLAs. So this is another area, and it's fascinating just to hear as we work with all these different companies, the different kind of constraints that are relevant to them. And this is really where it becomes critical for whether it's you're a solution provider or a service provider, to be able to really understand the unique constraints that some of these companies have. So you'll have the traditional constraints around vehicle capacity and shift times for drivers and so on, but then you have these very specific constraints that a customer may have and ask for. So a good example of this was this concept of idle time for drivers. So generally you think of drivers that are always out there doing deliveries, but you want to make sure that in the case of ride hailing, for example, that no driver is sitting there idle for more than 15 minutes, let's say, because they'll just jump to a competitive platform and you've lost them. So those are kind of unique constraints that we focus on when it comes to the specific types of use cases. The other one is for any of these companies that need to match a driver with a pickup at a grocery store or a pickup at a restaurant, or having a driver come back to a depot or a warehouse to restock. They all have this common need to be able to calculate drive times for a matrix of origins and destinations. So this is another foundational component that needs to be highly performant, just given the sheer number of the size of these matrices that we're talking about. And then be able to have very accurate ETAs related to those matrix calculations. So this is another key aspect of the solution that our customers look for. And then finally, the turn-by-turn piece. I mean, that's once you have your plan laid out, obviously making sure that you have that the turn-by-turn aspect is critical. So these are some of the areas that we've invested in significantly as a company, that we work very closely with these companies on. And have a direct correlation to the business metrics that they're trying to solve. The next area is around the drivers. And as I mentioned, you see the sheer number of drivers that Amazon, Walmart, CVS, a a lot of companies are offering. It's when we talk to customers, they're saying that that you look at Q1 and kind of Q2 right now, and every day is, or every quarter or week is even more than the holiday season, where you have a tremendous amount of deliveries happening. So that's the scale that these companies are trying to deal with. So in order to do that, there's all these new drivers that are coming in. Those drivers, in addition to obviously the turn-by-turn navigation piece that they're offered, have a very significant impact on specific costs, but also the experience and the brand that they personify when they're out there driving. So if they're driving aggressively, or if they're driving in a way that impacts insurance costs or drives more speeding tickets, or impacts the vehicle in terms of wear and tear, those are all costs that hit the bottom line immediately for our customers. And the other aspect is just every driver that's out there represents the brand. So that logo that's on the side of the truck, the logo that's on the shirt of the driver, has a direct reflection of the brand itself. And you see the stickers of, how's my driving, call 1-800, whatever it may be. That's really about how do you make sure that those drivers are a good reflection of that. So a lot of the conversations that we have with our customers is around how do you then make sure that you understand how your drivers are driving out there, to be able to reduce these costs, but also be able to make sure that the drivers stay safe, and that they're able to truly represent the brand, and you can take corrective action as needed. So this is where the vision aspects that I mentioned earlier on the call come into play. So the example that you see here is actually one of our partners that we announced at CES. It's a dash cam called Raven, which bundles our Vision SDK, and it provides the driver benefits in terms of speed limit warnings and collision warnings, because it can detect cyclists, pedestrians, and so on. But it also can report that back to the fleet operator that's managing them, so they can make sure that drivers are driving in a safe manner. They can take any kind of corrective action if someone is going against that. So this is a key pain point, especially as these companies scale up significantly in terms of the number of, especially of new drivers that are unproven or unknown in their business. The last area I'll talk about is, again, not necessarily a new one, but is one that's really ramping up for retailers. So this concept of buying online and picking up in store, it's unbelievable just to see over the last 2 months, roughly, the sheer number of retailers that have added this to their offering. So there was a survey that was conducted late last year by a company that focused on the retail sector, and they said at the time, this is pre-COVID, 60% of retailers were expecting to implement this curbside pickup, buy online, pick up in store, and then for shoppers, 85% of shoppers said that this would motivate them to actually buy, because it's a great experience. It's highly convenient for the customer, and it actually has some benefits for the retailer as well. So, in a recent interview with Target, their CEO mentioned that the same day curbside pickup option reduced the overall company's order cost by 90%, or that 42% of consumers rely on these kind of services. So it's something that makes it really convenient for customers, as well as drives business benefit for the retailers. So the key things that our customers care about is, how do we make sure that our customers, when they arrive, they're not sitting there for long periods of time? So the throughput aspect is extremely important, and the length of the line is extremely important. And then how much staff they should have within stores to pick the order, pack the order, prepare it, get it out there on time, not too early so that the person's ice cream doesn't melt, but it's really on time. So the person arrives, the order is there, and they can pick it up and drive off. And the kind of services that we tend to work with them on this is just one example where we use isochrone. So think of these geofences that are 30 minutes out, 20 minutes out, 15 minutes out, 5 minutes out. And as these drivers come close to the store, that in the back end, the store employees get alerts about this. So this requires obviously a mobile app, which when you look at the top 100 retailers in the US, at least, more than 95% of them have these mobile apps, and they're able to then get these alerts and really make sure that it's an amazing customer experience. So these retailers focus so much on the in-store experience as a brand extension of who they are. And the discussions we have with them is around how do they take that brand experience and make sure that it's not only in the store, but outside the store as well for curbside pickup. So these are just some of the areas that we've seen, a growth in across the board related to COVID, but even pre-COVID as well, and the kind of amazing conversations that we have with retailers and delivery companies for that. I'll pause here just to open up the floor for questions in the next couple of minutes.
So that was actually quite insightful, and it was also quite interesting to see how many different applications location intelligence actually serves the logistics industry. For example, things like vehicle maintenance aren't necessarily the first thing that comes to mind. I mean, I guess everybody can think about options like turn-to-turn navigation, but it's interesting to see that. Okay, we have Hossam for another couple of minutes, so does anybody have any questions? Just go ahead and write it down in the chat, or if you want to use your voice, let us know and I can give you permission to do that.
So maybe in the meantime, waiting for questions to pop up. So I think that this is an amazing story and kind of transformation itself when you look at Mapbox, that this is actually a transition from being a mapping platform to being a data company, which is like really great story, and this kind of also shows that the data is the new oil that is powering the business. So a quick question on my end would be, if I now today after this meetup have a great idea how to solve particular problem, create a startup that would solve particular last mile delivery problem, how do I actually access all of these great data sets, tools that you've mentioned?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this is one of the areas that we focus a lot on, which is that developer experience for onboarding. So it's actually extremely simple. You essentially go to mapbox.com. You can set up an account very easily. You put in a credit card, and you're off to the races. You have access to our SDKs. You have access to our services. You have access to everything. So it's and there's a great set of documentation that we have available online. So this is one of the areas that is extremely easy to get up and running, just to test out. And we have some very generous free tiers as well, just to make it really easy to play around with our services and try them out, and really see the power of what they can do for you for your business. So I'd encourage everybody, again, visit mapbox.com. There's a great set of showcase case studies over there. It's sign up for an account, read through the documentation, and reach out as well. I mean, we love talking to customers and learning more about what you're trying to accomplish. So please do reach out to us to learn more about what you're trying to do and see how we can help you accomplish that.
Okay, awesome. You actually do have more than a couple of questions. I guess you should be able to see this on the side of the chat. Let's start maybe with the first one. Can you pick it up yourself, or should I help? Do you see it?
Yeah, I see the text. So I'll maybe flip through the questions and see how many we can get through. So the first one, Gareth, you asked how sensitive.
Just click on answer live, and I think it will already pop up on your screen for everybody as well.
Okay, I see. So this one, can people see the question right now?
Yes, I assume so, because I can see it.
Okay, great.
Okay, we have a first, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so the first question is, how sensitive are logistics companies to various delay durations? Do they care about 5-minute delay on a trip, or what is the threshold? And the answer is, I mean, absolutely they care about delays. And this is one of the pain points of just with, and why things like traffic and underlying data and ground truth of what's happening out there is so critical. Because these delays can easily snowball throughout your trip, and where you have very tight SLAs where customers have paid for a specific delivery window, or a delivery or a retailer, for example, has paid for very tight SLAs. Every delay counts and can snowball into something bigger, and then you have to replan and sit there changing about it. And for the drivers themselves, again, you add up, you think about the number of stops that they do in a day, where it could be anywhere from 50 to 200. It really adds up. All those delays can snowball into them being either just late with their shifts, or not being able to deliver on their shifts, or have to sit there changing all their delivery schedule. So they absolutely do care about the delay, and it really, in terms of what the threshold is, it really depends on the company and the SLAs that they've set. So some companies give very wide delivery windows. We've all been in a situation where we call a company and they say, "Oh, yeah, we'll be there between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m." Right? But all the companies we talk to want to have very tight windows, because that's a better customer experience. If you can tell your customer, by the time you click order to the time the order is in front of you, we have one customer we work with that they essentially do that. Their SLA is within 45 minutes of you placing an order, that order will be at your doorstep. So a 5-minute delay or a 10-minute delay would mean that they would miss they could miss that 45-minute window from a delivery perspective. So to answer your question, Gareth, it really depends on the customer, but everybody we talk to does care about delays.
Okay, maybe we take another 2 questions.
Yeah. So the other, I'm just looking through the questions to make sure that maybe we answer some really interesting ones. They're all really great questions. Right. So there's this one here. What kind of data attributes to use in order to be able to enhance the scheduling for these curbside deliveries? So a couple of different things. I mean, one is around, you need insight about the person and their order that they made, obviously, and where they are, and then which store they're going to, and how far are they, and how long will it take them to get there. So in terms of the data attributes, it's really about understanding the driver, where they are. So this is through the mobile application that they would have installed on their device, and the fact that they're heading towards the store. Traffic plays a very important role in this, so that again, the ETA with high level of accuracy of when the person would arrive there. So those are just some of the aspects of the data attributes. The other interesting one here is around how we do that, right? So how does Mapbox collect live traffic data? So we have several hundred million monthly active users that are actively using an app which uses our platform. So I can say that probably for a lot of you, you already have a couple of applications on your phone which use the Mapbox platform for either visualizing a map, or for navigation, or some other aspect of our solution. So the way we do this is we actually get anonymous probe data from this, and from that, in addition to other sources that we conflate together, we're able to build up a very accurate historic traffic data set, but also a live traffic data set which can power these ETAs and matrix and directions and isochrones and so on. So we have a very robust set of crowdsourced, anonymized probe data.
We have a couple of other questions, but I guess in the interest of time, maybe we take it towards the end. All of these questions are saved in the chat, so it should be easy for us to look back into it. Thanks, Hossam. Thanks a lot.
Great, thank you. I'll be around later also for additional questions. Or again, feel free, please, to reach out to us either on the chat. So we have a colleague of mine, Alex, in the chat as well, and then myself throughout the rest of the session.
Perfect.